Toby Hardy and Michael Ford are coming. Ellen Wilkinson, the red flag, she is humming. We get around not as much as Dominic Cummings, even though he's driving blind. We are the Labour grassroots, where like-minded folk dwell. From countryside to city, it's warm and it's witty, the antidote to Pretty Patel. We are the Labour grassroots, time to raise a racket. The future is as bright as Crispin's red jacket. This is the space where we all go hell for leather, free from all the biased BBC blether. Like track and trace, we're better together, just as Carrie and Meg. Yeah, we got all the people from Inverness, Skegness, Barrow, Inverness, Chester, Leicester, Cirencester, Shrewsbury, Oswestry, Swansea, Llanelli, Barnsley, Beccles, Nottingham and Eccles. We are the Labour grassroots, time to plant some grass. Where we've always had social distancing between us and the upper class.
Welcome to not the Andrew Marr show, and we've got a very busy show again. Hope you're all having a good day. I've got my birthday shirt on. I was 50 on Thursday, and I thought I'd try and look younger, so I've got a new shirt. I think it works, don't you? I don't think it does actually, but it's just hopeful. And to start the show, we've got our newspaper review, and joining us, we've got Lamia from the Morning Star. Are you there, Lamia?
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good to see you. And you went to the same school as me, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
That makes you even better.
So we both went to the Socialist Eton, as it's known.
Socialist Eton, yeah. That's how we turned out. And joining Lamia is Roger McKenzie, who is from Unison, Deputy General Secretary.
Not quite. Assistant General Secretary.
Assistant, sorry.
Yeah, you get in trouble for those sort of things in Unison, giving wrong titles. So.
Well, you're standing to be the General Secretary.
I am.
So that's exciting. And you've been reading the papers this morning. I've sent you some stories to look at. I thought we'd start with the story about the fine for people who refuse to self-isolate, but also this £500 if you're as a carrot for not going out and not self-isolating if you're low paid. What do you think about that, Roger?
Well, in terms of the fine, first of all, I don't think anybody believes that applies to everybody. I mean, you've only got to look back a little bit and see Cummings and allegedly going all around the country, and nothing happens. In fact, he gets the benefit of being able to give a press conference in the grounds of 10 Downing Street around it. So, I mean, it's just. I mean, I think tied to this as well is that the Tories are saying that people should shop their neighbours as well. I mean, is this the sort of society that we're turning into, where you're supposed to spy on your neighbours? I mean, they're already asking that of public service workers to shop asylums and shop refugees and migrant workers and so on. I mean, this is rubbish. The £500, so the Tories have suddenly found out that low-paid workers are having real trouble after all this time. This is just ludicrous, frankly. And
Lamia, what do you think about the £500? I mean, that to me, I don't know if that's really. I mean, is it? I bet you have to fight a bit to get that, don't you?
Well, yeah, especially with the with the whole benefit system as it is with universal credit. There's been so many failures over since it was implemented. So I don't know how they will implement this at short notice. And also, it will also pose the question as to whether low-income earners will get this £500 because, as well as sick pay to cover their living expenses, because they're not entitled to sick pay unless they earn over like £120 a week. So there are some people who don't earn that much because they are, you know, 0-hour contract workers. They're not actually employees. They're not classed as employees. Only employees are entitled to this £500, I think. And the £500 spread over 2 weeks only comes to about £35 a day. So it's not really that much of an incentive if you think about it. And so unless there is further support for workers who won't be able to afford to self-isolate, then I don't think it will be enough.
The story I thought that sort of applies with this COVID thing was about rail firms, rail franchises. The government has effectively been subsidising the reduced rate numbers of people going on rail, and it looks like some of these rail firms aren't really keen on keeping going with that situation because they're not making enough money. What's your view on that, Lamia?
I think it's a long time coming, really, because we've always had an issue with the rail system in this country, with the private ownership of most of the lines and the rather, well, extremely inflated prices of tickets. It's, you know, more affordable to fly to Scotland than it is to get a train. And I do think it will be interesting to see what happens when the emergency measures expire. So I'll be definitely keeping an eye on this one, I think. What I can say is that the least the government can do is continue to reduce how much the franchise holders are paid so that it's less financially viable for them to hold the franchises. And I think that could probably accelerate the full nationalisation of rail.
Right, and Roger, do you think that this could see, because of the crisis in COVID and the numbers of people falling on the train lines, do you think this could see nationalisation just because the profit isn't there?
Well, it won't happen just because we hope it's going to happen. It'll happen if we organise to make it happen. And for me, that's the critical thing about this. I mean, this is an opportunity for us to push for the renationalisation of railways. I mean, my dad was a railway worker for 30 years when he came over from Jamaica in the early 60s. So, you know, I mean, this is something very, very dear to my heart. But the Tories are wedded to the market. They will not be wanting to bring this back into public ownership. We have to insist that Labour's policy of nationalisation of the railways is carried through by the party. And again, as I said before, that only happens if we make it happen, if we organise to make it happen. That for me is the critical thing. It's a failure of the market here, and the market doesn't work in the provision of public services. We just have. This is yet another example of that. So nationalisation is really the only solution.
Yeah, and it just seems that this crisis has actually brought about lots of kind of changes that we've been looking to do for years. It just shows the system can't seem to work in the way it is. It can't continue.
Well, the market doesn't work in terms of delivering public services. That's the bottom line. We've been saying that for years, and it keeps being proven. But there is this weddedness, if that's a real word, to the idea that the private sector should have some role in the delivery of any public services, whether it's council services, whether it's our NHS, but also whether it's the railways. It simply doesn't work. And you tell anybody who tries to buy a ticket for any kind of length of journey that it's reasonable to pay the sort of money that we have to do just to travel from, say, Oxford, where I am, up to, I don't know, Manchester or Newcastle or something of a morning for work. It's outrageous prices.
Yeah, and then the other story that I thought was quite interesting that came out in the Observer was that because of the problems with the exams that the government faced, that there's a case now for killing off GCSEs. What's your view on that, Roger? Have you got experience with GCSEs, and she's got family taking them? Do you know anyone who's had to?
I didn't get many.
You didn't get many.
I think I got two in the end when I left school. There were still GCEs when I left school. I think what teachers will be saying about this, never mind all the school staff, the rest of the school staff community, is that what are they talking about? Another round of reorganisation in schools, another round of reorganisations for people to have to put up with. You know, I mean, you can't keep reorganising the exam systems in school, and you know, who owns the schools and stuff. You know, I mean, we have to have a way of listening to what people who actually work in the school system, not these kind of Tory grandees and what they think from their privileged world, but what the people who actually work in the schools, the teachers, the caretakers, the cleaners, and the school meals staff, the head teachers, all of the people who work in schools. Let's talk to them about what's needed rather than some bright idea from some public school that people are going to come up with next.
Yeah, and Lamia, how did you do at your GCSEs, by the way?
I did okay, which is surprising since our school was a bit of a, I don't know, madhouse. So I think Crispin will know what I'm talking about. And yeah, basically I've got recent experience of this as well, because I redid my maths GCSE this year. And it was a bit of a mess. I got an A, but the what was going on throughout the whole year was an absolute mess. So I would be in full favour of reforming GCSEs and giving more power to teachers to you know, grade their own students. They know their students better than any algorithm. And it will also benefit students who are not as good as exams as other kids. And, you know, if the work is spread out over the whole year and the assessment is spread out over the whole year, then, you know, it will be more consistent and they'll have more chances to redeem themselves rather than just in an exam at the end of the year. And it's quite ironic, actually, that the architect of the GCSE system is now wanting to change it. I think that speaks volumes as to how much the change is really needed. And also I found it interesting in the article that it talks about private schools being better equipped to deal with the fallout of the pandemic. And some of them have offered virtual exam halls. So it's also a case in favour of increasing funding to state schools, especially those who are struggling financially. And it would be good to have the government offer the funding that teaching unions have called for a long, long time.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on. This story caught my eye in the Observer. Migrants who pick fruit for the UK in Spain and Almeria, sorry. They are really in really terrible living conditions, especially with the COVID as well. What does this say about our, you know, our supermarkets still exploiting people? But we're paying people a fair wage, but we're expecting others in other countries to be paid nothing or very little. What's your view on this, Roger? What can we do to actually improve working conditions for those people in other countries?
Well, for me, this is where the kind of international trade union movement and the links that the trade union movement in this country has internationally kind of comes into play here, because we certainly need to have solidarity with people, and we do a lot of that work across the trade union movement from the UK. But we also have to have an impact, I think, on many of these employers who are consistently exploiting workers so that we can have cheaper food or whatever, because it's cheap food because we pay people a pittance to be able to produce it. That can't go on. So we have to have do more work with the international trade union movement to make an impact on this. Some of these companies, some of the people behind this, they're not just small, kind of affairs and that are exploiting these people. Some of these organisations that are exploiting these people are big transnational corporations, and we have to impact on those companies, because some of those companies also have interests in the delivery of public services over here, as well as some they employ people directly in this country as well. So I suppose what I'm saying is that we need to, again, not just kind of say, well, that's bad, isn't it? And that's all terrible. We have to actually do something. And that means a collective approach by the international trade union movement to stop this from happening.
Lamia, what's your view on this?
Well, I can only describe this as modern day slavery, and it's quite sad to read. The Spanish government and the businesses who benefit from this should be held responsible, and I agree with Roger that it should be done within the international trade union movement, and I think that's the only way that pressure can be put on the Spanish government and probably the British government as well. But it seems that they're passing the buck to each other, saying that it's the government's responsibility, and the government saying it's the company's responsibility. And these companies are exploiting people. Most of these migrants are from North Africa, mainly Morocco, and they're living without the basics of electricity, water, sanitation, and they're paid less than the minimum wage to pick out food. And they're classed as key workers, yet they're not being treated with the respect and with the with the basic living standards that they really need to live in Spain and to do this work. But the employers know that they can get away with it because many of these people are from Morocco and they're desperate to escape poverty by working in Spain. I've recently come back from Morocco. I was there for 5 months because I'm Moroccan myself, and I was stuck there for 5 months because of the pandemic. So I can see how desperate life is for many people, and their reasons why they want to go to Spain. And I think it's really, really sad that they're being treated in this way, and I do think that people need to be held responsible for it, definitely.
Oh yeah, I mean the Spanish government should be held to account for this, really. I mean, we should be really lobbying that they stop that and the supermarkets don't buy from them. And like you say, the unions take a part internationally. I'm moving on to another story quickly in the Morning Star, that a group of prominent British Palestinians have spoken out over shrinking space in the Labour Party to discuss their people's struggle. Effectively, they're arguing that the IHRA definition silences legitimate criticism of Israel by conflating condemnation of Zionism and Israel's laws and policies with anti-Semitism. I don't want to get into any trouble with this myself. I find this issue very difficult because I don't really know what's right or wrong about this. But I do think this story does highlight that the Palestinians this issue may not be brought out. The Palestinian situation may not be brought out because of these fears about being labelled anti-Semitic. What's your view on that, Roger?
Always stood up for the Palestinian cause, and I always will. Absolutely against criticising the people of Israel, many of whom understand and support the Palestinian cause. I agree with the view from the TUC this week, historic view of the TUC this week. Actually, it's very easy to lose sight of the fact that it was a virtual Congress and so on, about the historic nature of what the TUC said in terms of a state practicing apartheid. Many of us campaigned against apartheid. Many of us have been campaigners for equality for all of our lives. I certainly have. And we shouldn't ever, I don't think we should ever be stopped from talking about what's right. And when you see people being oppressed, the day we start double guessing ourselves about whether or not we should speak up for people who are being oppressed, I think is a really, really sad day. And I'll never do that. I think we have to stand up for the Palestinians.
Oh, thanks. Lamia?
Yeah, I don't think the campaign within the Labour Party, the conflict within the Labour Party, for the rights of Palestinians, in favour of the right of Palestinians, is one that's going to go away anytime soon, especially with the new leadership of the party. This story, I feel that, the story comes after the party has been trying to impose this IHRA definition of anti-Semitism on local councils. And I think it has the potential to, exacerbate the issue and to make the conflict more severe. And it probably could make it easier for left-wingers to be expelled from local government in the same way that we've seen with, with Labour when people were being expelled from the front bench. And I just don't think it's good. And that's all I can really say about it, I think.
Yeah. All right, well, look, we're going to finish on this story that you wrote, Lamia, about the Labour conference, because it would be the Labour conference in Liverpool at the moment, but obviously it's online. And Angela Rayner, the headline is Angela Rayner, Labour has a mountain to climb. So and also there's this story that Keir Starmer has changed the banner, saying something about new leadership is his new catchphrase. What's your feeling on the state of the Labour Party during this virtual conference?
I think it's quite uncertain at the moment. I don't, they've just kind of switched sides from saying, we oppose Brexit, or, well, Corbyn's position on it was that they would let the electorate choose. But now it's kind of been, the pro-EU leader, which is Sir Keir Starmer, is now switched to, let's get Brexit done. And I think that is quite strategic in a way. I don't know if it will work, because you can't campaign throughout a whole general election for one side and then switch. But I think he's doing it because maybe he's seeing that if he does that, he will show the government up for being even more incompetent than they already are. So I don't know yet. It's quite uncertain. I can't really gauge the reasons why he's doing this. I can't really pinpoint for sure. But I've got my suspicions. I've got my thoughts about it. And it is true that Labour does have a mountain to climb to win the next election. I mean, they've lost 59 seats in their traditional Labour voting areas, I think, alone. So, 59 in total, mainly in the north and other areas. And I just think I don't have faith that this leadership will attract the same level of support that Jeremy Corbyn had in the last general election. And the leaked report that came out in April showed that there was a lot of sabotage going on within, the headquarters by senior Labour employees. And I do think that that was a shame, an absolute shame, a crying shame. And I don't think that Labour will ever see that amount of public support. And I would like to, I'd be interested to see where Labour will go from now.
Yeah, Roger. But finally, with you, what's your view on the state of the Labour Party? What do you think Labour needs to do to take on this mountain?
Well, I mean, of course, it is a mountain, 80 seat majority for the Tories, but I think saying that we'll never get that sort of level of activity again is not something that I can support, because I think that never's a long time. I think people are determined. I think people know how to organise now in communities and know how to organise in workplaces. And I think that that's what we have to do. For me, organising is the key that's going to make the difference. So it's more than about Brexit, why Labour has a mountain to climb. It's about whether or not the party stands up for the policies that were agreed, that form the basis of the manifesto around nationalisation, which we talked about earlier on, all those issues around social justice that many of us, I'm sure, on this call, pretty well everybody, I would imagine, on this call agrees to. This is not about one thing. Brexit's a big, big issue, of course it is, but there's lots of things. How are we going to stand up for public services? How are we going to make sure that the levels of racism that we face in this country at the minute are really properly dealt with by the Labour Party and by this government? How are we going to make sure that we can bring privatized services back in the house? How can we make sure that there's proper protection for people in the workplace, so that even Labour mayors, as he has done in Tower Hamlets, where even a Labour mayor can decide that they are going to sack council workers and re-engage them on worse terms and conditions. That's the challenge that we've got to have. It's not just about one particular part of policy, as important as Brexit is. This is about root and branch within the Labour Party, where we can have mayors representing the Labour Party who think that that's something that's okay to do. You know, we can, my position is we can complain about all this stuff all we like, but we have to go out and organise. We have to go out and we have to build the movement that's going to make a difference. I've never met a politician once, with the exception of Jeremy Corbyn, actually, who's the only one, right, who as far as I'm concerned, but I've never met one other politician who isn't moved by people moving them, frankly. And that's what we have to do. We have to light a fire under people to move them, and that comes out of organising, and that's what we're going to have to do. So if we want to keep the policies that we all agreed within the Labour Party, then we have to go out and organise and make sure that that's happening. And frankly, I have to say to those people who want to abandon that fight and leave the Labour Party, I have to say, stay and fight with us. Stay. You know, let's build a movement that's going to make a difference. Let's build a movement that's actually going to stand up for the policies that I'm sure pretty well everybody on this call agrees with.
Oh, well, thank you very much for that. And thank you both for coming on this morning. And it's great to see you both. And thank you for all your contributions.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks. And good luck with Aston Villa as well, Roger.
Yeah, but Grealish is staying, so we got a chance.
Need to win today.
We do.
And after that discussion about Labour's future, who better to bring in than Andrew Fisher? How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm good, thanks. How are you? And happy 50th as well.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it's a bit strange being 50. Now, I've noticed that you've been writing quite a few, at least a couple of articles recently, that one of which I'll just screen share, which was echoing what Roger was just saying about which people in the Labour Party, socialists, should stay and fight. Why do you think we need to say that?
Why do I think we need to say? Because look, socialism and the Labour Party, it's not a spectator sport. We're not a fan club of the leader. And that shouldn't have been true under Jeremy, and it shouldn't be true under Keir Starmer either. We're socialists. We don't believe that we sort of outsource our politics to somebody at the top and then do nothing and sit back and cheer. Now, so for me, I look at what we've achieved in the last 4 years. And a lot of the basis of that is still there. And a lot of the reasons why people thought all those things and why we won those policies that Roger just outlined are still there, because wages are too low, because there's a housing crisis. These things are only getting worse. So we've got to keep those solutions in, but we can't just sit back and say, well, I hope somebody does it for me. We are participants in this. We're Labour Party members. We're not like the Democrats where they have a rally every so often. We are participants in this. We get to vote at conference. We get to elect our leaders. And Keir Starmer's got the mandate he's got, but he got the mandate he got tied to the policies he set out, which were virtually identical to the 10 pledges Jeremy put forward in 2015. And there's a reason for that, because they are necessary for the situation we're in. And we've got to make sure that that's held to. So I completely agree with what Roger just said before. It's important to. And so for me, as somebody who's been on the left in the Labour Party for over 20 years, you can't just see this as, our man has lost the leadership, therefore we walk away. It's our Labour Party. It's ours just as much as anybody else's. And we've got to, stay and engage and argue our case and organise.
Do you think the Labour Party, I suppose not just the Labour Party, but people in general, have a fixation on leaders and personalities that actually is to the detriment of the movement? Because it seems to me that people get so disheartened when one of their people that they like isn't selected for this or that, whether it's a local party or a national leadership election. And like you say, that isn't really what politics is about. Are we sort of hoodwinked by the media? I mean, because the media are obsessed with the personality clashes. What do you think we can do to re-educate people or change people's perspectives? Because that's really key to it, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think political education is really important. And I don't think we do enough of it within the Labour movement as a whole. Some unions have got very good kind of political education programmes, others, haven't. And the Labour Party's been really bad at doing it. Some CLPs do it really well with guest speakers and discussion, others don't. And I think we've got to be better at that. But you're right, the press has got a role in this as well. Although we've got a responsibility to look beyond it, because if you look at the Westminster correspondents, often called the lobby, they're basically gossip columnists. They don't talk about the policies going on in Parliament. They don't talk about the crises in the country. They talk about who's had a row with who's made a good speech in Parliament, who's done whatever. It's all focused on individuals, and they are gossip columnists, frankly. And that's not, I don't mean that rudely about them, but they should be seen in that light, in the same way that we see all that trivia about celebrities. They just trivialise politics by doing that. And to me, that's one of the most frustrating things about the media, is we don't talk about the policy. I mean, how often do we know the bills that are being voted on in Parliament? Very rarely. They don't talk about what it will mean for people. They don't go and interview people who are affected by it. They talk to people about whether there'll be a rebellion in Parliament, whether somebody's fallen out with somebody, whether somebody might resign. It's all done at that kind of court level. And we've got to bring it back to the grassroots. Look, change happens, not because, great leaders benevolently give us things. It's because there are organised causes for things. That's the lesson of the trade unions. That's a lesson of the whole Labour movement. And if we forget that and outsource it and just go, oh, well, I don't particularly like that interview that Keir Starmer did, or I don't like that interview somebody else did, I'm going to walk away. You're not serious. You're never going to get change in that way just by cheering nice things. You've got to go out and organise to change society, because there is a whole class of people, landlords, employers, and so on, who are operating and organising in their interests. And if we don't organise in ours, we won't win. It's as simple as that.
I mean, that's right. That's interesting about the organising the landlords and the other interests. I mean, seeing this story about Tom Watson being given a job with a betting company. What's your experience being in the Westminster office, of Jeremy? What were the lobbyists trying to do with Jeremy? Did they not know how to deal with Jeremy because he wasn't interested? Was that a conflict that may have caused his downfall, that he wasn't playing ball with the lobbyists? And I don't mean trade unions, obviously.
No, I know what you mean. I think, Jeremy can't be bought. I think that's pretty obvious, and neither can, a lot of the others either, to be frank. So, yeah, I think that's good. But that was part of his support. The reason Jeremy kind of evoked such passionate support for him and John McDonnell as well and others is because they are principled, and they're consistently principled, and they've been on the right side of things at the grassroots alongside activists when some causes were deeply unpopular. They were there with people because it was right. And I think, you know, the usual kind of lobbying operations that happen around Parliament just couldn't engage. They didn't know the people involved in Jeremy's office. You know, they didn't have the roots in that they used to have. And we weren't, you know, for instance, we didn't have people seconded in by big business and the big accountancy firms to supplement it. We took a decision that we weren't going to do that, and we do it ourselves and go to the trade unions and draw on our collective strength rather than, you know, be bought off by different corporate interests. And that was important. So I don't think it really accounted for Jeremy's downfall in any meaningful way. I mean, obviously, his principled character and his, you know, long-standing passion for things that were controversial with the right-wing press clearly created a backlash there. But I don't think it.
But what about? I mean, so what about with the MPs? Because you had, I mean, the first sort of wave of a dissent was within the parliamentary party, and I'm just wondering if those MPs felt threatened by someone who wasn't talking to lobbyists and wasn't engaging in them and wasn't giving them that access that they could promise, maybe with, say, Miliband or people before. They could say, oh yeah, I can get you in with the leader's office. Was that something, do you think, that had anything to do with it?
Well, I mean, you look at where some of these characters are now, and I think Owen Jones's book is out, I think, either early next week, I think, This Land. You know, he's published an excerpt of it on Twitter, and he did this sort of list of where Chris Leslie is now. I think he's working for a bailiffs company. Michael Duggar is working for the Betting and Gaming Council. You know, Angela Smith is working for privatised water interests, and so on. There were about 5 or 6 examples. I won't run through any more because I might get them wrong and, you know, get myself into trouble. But, you know, and obviously we've seen Tom Watson in the last few days. So clearly there is a lot of these people who clearly want to operate on behalf of big business. You know, there's MPs that were very close to arms firms who had gone on trips to, you know, Saudi Arabia on behalf of arms companies, that have gone to Nigeria on behalf of Shell in the past as well. Labour MPs I'm talking about here. So yes, there is that element within it. I mean, thankfully, one thing you can say is these MPs, because they, you know, largely defected or stood down, are no longer in Parliament. I think the PLP is a much healthier place actually for losing some of those. Obviously, some of them have got peerages from the Tory party and are still in Westminster. But, you know, by and large, I think most Labour MPs, and I want to emphasise this, are quite decent people and go in there, you know, even if they're not from my sort of background, a socialist, they are decent. They're, you know, social democrats. They mean well. I might disagree with them on certain issues, but they're there for decent reasons. And I think that the quality of the PLP has improved in that sense, because I think there is less of that kind of self-interested carpetbagger type in there, to be frank.
But like what you said about, you know, we have to build a movement. If I feel sometimes a bit overwhelmed by the fact that these lobbyists have all this money and connections. So Tom Watson's working for a betting company. If they want to get someone to ask a question or propose something in Parliament, he can go in with all his chums there and say, oh yeah, can you do me a favour? You know, we don't have that access. I mean, if I write sometimes to MPs, Labour MPs, I don't get a response. If I had some kind of lobbying credential with some money, I may well do. So it's difficult in the movement if we're not seeming to be in there with the parliamentary party. Do you think that's something that we should work for, that Labour shouldn't have that connection with lobbyists? Can we do something through conference maybe? Or
I agree. Maybe there are routes, but we shouldn't underestimate our power. Our power is collective. You know, we can make our voices heard through our CLP collectively, and I know that's difficult at the moment where meetings are difficult and so on. But in normal circumstances, or, you know, whatever circumstances emerge, we will get round it through technology. You know, these meetings work. We can put our pressure on there. We can do it through our trade unions as well, and they put a collective pressure on the Labour leadership. They did under Jeremy as well, where they wanted things moved in different directions, and is quite right. So our strength as well, and we can organise in our local communities. I mean, you look at things like, you know, the London Renters Union, and not to be London centric about it, Acorn or Living Rent in Scotland as well. They are doing wonderful things by getting people organised together, and MPs and then anybody, and this is MPs of all parties, by the way, will act under pressure. If they've got enough of their constituents banging down their door, metaphorically, saying, we need this, they will act. The Tories extended the eviction ban, not because they wanted to stand up for tenants, but because they had public pressure. They felt public pressure. That's how things change. So in a sense, even, you know, Conservatives will occasionally throw, you know, morsels out because they feel under pressure to do so. And I think we've got to remember that our strength is collective. No, we're never going to outbid the multi-million pound, multi-billion pound companies and corporate interests. No, we're not. But we're always going to have a majority among the people for our arguments. And I think that's one thing that, you know, Corbynism taught us in that sense, is that left-wing policies are popular. You know, you look at the polling on public ownership, on ending austerity, on redistributive taxation, it's massively popular and often got a majority among Tory voters for those positions. It's not just a kind of fringe left issue. You know, so we should be confident, but we've got to find ways of organising together collectively to make that pressure tell, because we're not going to be able to buy ads in the newspapers. We're not going to be able to, you know, put MPs on the payroll, and a lot of them do have second jobs and different interests. We're not going to be able to do that. We have to make our pressure told collectively.
Right. I'd love to talk to you for more. Maybe we could have another chat sometime, but we're running a bit late now.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you for coming on. Great to see you. You look much happier than when you were under stress in that office, I reckon.
Cheers.
And what we're coming up to now is the clash of the CLPs, which is the hardest quiz that you will ever get on politics. And we've got 4 CLPs here. We've got South East Cornwall, who didn't manage to get connected last time. Glenn, are you there?
I'm here.
Well done. You're on this time.
I am indeed, mate.
And we've got Anthony in Clwyd South. You there, Anthony?
Yeah, I'm here.
Good to see you. This is going really well at the moment. Everyone seems to be there so far. Kevin in the Socialist Republic of Liverpool. Kevin?
Morning, Crispin. I'm here.
There you are, Kevin. Right. So we've got 3 there now. So we've got some fantastic questions for you here. Are you all unmuted? You have to be unmuted. Anthony, Glenn, and Kevin, you're all unmuted, right? Now I'm going to ask you to identify who is this former trade union leader. First one of you to come in gets the point, okay?
Roger Bickerstaff.
Say it again.
Roger Bickerstaff.
Anyone else got an idea?
Nigel de Grucci.
I thought it was Roger Biggerstaff. I thought it was Roger Biggerstaff too. I know Rodney Biggerstaff.
Oh, I think that's where you get it, Anthony, because you said Rodney, not Roger. Sorry, Glenn, you were close.
That's all right.
So Clwyd South have got 1 point now. Here's your next question. Who is this?
Brenda Dean.
Oh, Clwyd South, quick again.
Yeah, very good.
All right. And Brenda Dean was the... Do you want to know who she was, everyone?
She was leader of Sogat.
Sogat. Oh, yeah, you've got all the answers here. Next question. Who is this?
Oh, God.
Anyone? Formerly, it was the GMB's. They were he started up GMB effectively.
David Basnett.
Oh, he's got it. He's got it. Liverpool have come in. We've got 1. Now we're moving on to this one. They should get this one. Who's this?
Ron Todd.
Who said that?
Kevin.
Kevin got it right. 2-2. Clwyd and Liverpool, and the final one is not a union leader. This is to test How well do you know Labour's shadow cabinet? Are you ready for this?
God, no.
Oh no, says Kevin. Oh, here we go. Who's this?
Nick Thomas Simmons.
Who said that? Glenn?
Yeah.
Oh, you got one, Glenn. Okay.
Crispin, I'm a wireless man. I'm not used to all these pictures.
Well, you're still level pegging with. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do. I'm going to right. So it's Clwyd and Liverpool. So I'm going to give South East Cornwall a chance here to come in with a. I'm going to give South East Cornwall a chance to come in now. Glenn, which trade union has the largest number of members, the NUJ or the Musicians Union?
I'll say the Musicians Union.
Anthony?
Well, I was going to say Musicians Union too.
Kevin?
I'd go for Musicians Union.
You're all wrong. You're all wrong. It's the NUJ. Okay. Not one of you got that right. So your next right. So Glenn, you had a chance there to get back in there. This is between. So I'm going to give this to Anthony in Clwyd South. Which union has the largest number of members? Equity, the Actors Union, or the FBU?
FBU.
Kevin?
I'd say the FBU, but I'm probably wrong.
Glenn?
Well, I'm going to.
Are there more actors or firemen out there?
Yeah, I'm going to say Equity.
Oh, you got back in. So you're all on two now. So I'm going to ask you a question for who this is. Who gets through first to the semi-final? Okay. Who is the longest-serving woman MP?
Currently,
Yeah,
Harriet Harman.
he's got it. Glenn's got through. Just and a question for Anthony and Kevin. Who was Labour's first leader?
Keir Hardy.
That's right. So Liverpool and South East Cornwall have gone through. Anthony, I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
Thank you for coming on.
Best of luck in the next round, guys.
Thank you.
Good to see you all. You all look quite similar as well. Do you know that? Just so you know, is there a kind of are the quiz champions always have to look a certain way? I don't know. And now we're going to
balding blokes with glasses.
What's that?
Balding blokes with glasses.
I wasn't going to say that.
Now that you're 50, Crispin, you'll be moving into that realm, so just be careful.
Why do you think I'm wearing a hat? So I'm going to move on to Rob. No, I'm going to move on to. I'll tell you, I'm going to move on to. I'm going to move on to Patrick and to Don. Are you there?
Hello, Crispin. Hello. How's
You
it
there,
going?
Patrick?
Good evening. Yeah. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good happy birthday. Love the shirt. Missed you on Friday.
Oh, I can't see Don. Don's not on.
Don. I don't know where Don is. I think Don's actually down. I think he's got his birthday shirt on as well, has he?
Is he?
Yeah.
Is Don?
Look underneath your hat. I think he's in there.
Is he?
Yeah.
Now I've got some stories for you, Patrick, that I thought you might have something to say about.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of more light-hearted. Now, one of them is this one here that that there's been a story that a few people in the London Metropolitan Police have got really large trousers, and there's a fear that they might not be able to catch criminals because they're not doing a fitness. I believe that they had to do a fitness test. Didn't you think that? I thought policemen had to.
I think that's the problem. Is you have to. I know some people who are in the police. They have to do the beat test. So I don't know if people here might have done it at school. Do you remember where you have to run? When you hear a beep, you have to run to one wall, hear a beep, you go back to the other wall, you hear a beep. The only problem is this doesn't really help you lose weight because it just encourages. If you're overweight, it sounds like a microwave. So you just keep running. You hear a beep. There's a pasty in the oven, boom, beep, straight over to the microwave, back forward. So they need to change the way you're going to lose your weight. There was, I couldn't believe it. I didn't see it here. It said the biggest waistline is 66 inches. That is a healthy person of 11 foot. So I think what they need to do here is they need to start employing people who are 11 foot because it'll be much safer if around. Then keep them trousers, but just get two policemen who are a bit overweight and just stick them together. Do you remember like them old Buster Keaton movies? You know, remember where they used to go in a big jacket and then just pay for one ticket going into the cinema? It'd be a lot cheaper, just do that. But I think the problem here is, and I think this is the thing they were saying about was, you know, I think it's a good thing. Let's be positive because you were talking about earlier on the show, you know, we might get £10,000 fine if you're having a party you're having to do or something. Then it's great. If the police are that big, they won't be able to catch you. So at least you can run away. We can get away with, you know, breaking a bit of the law. You know what it's like. I mean, look at Mark Fryer. Mark was commenting on there, taking the mick out of you about Fulham against Leeds. I mean, look at Mark. If the police would be around his house, look at that. Look at him. Look, he's just robbed a charity shop for that football top. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, he's quite lucky the police aren't getting around there. But
I've got another one here for you, Patrick. Is someone was in the passenger seat of a car and they wanted to do a really cool Snapchat video and they nearly killed themselves doing it. What I found amusing about this was that the article ends with one Twitter user said. So it's like one social media user commenting on another social media user. What do you use Snapchat? Have you used Snapchat?
No, I tried to use it and I just couldn't work it out. It was just pointless because there's too much social media at the moment. And the problem with this is that everyone's gone on to Snapchat. What they don't realise is it's because of things like you being framed. That's gone. I mean, I would have done this years ago where I would have fallen out of a car on a motorway to get £250 on you being framed. I'm not going to stick it up on Snapchat or Twitter because this is what people do now, don't they? Go on, they risk their lives doing a selfie, hanging off the back of a moving vehicle just to get 6 likes and a retweet. I mean, what's the point of that? Unless you're going to get £250, don't waste our time. And then this was the other thing about this, which was ridiculous because we used to, I'm probably way older than everyone on here, but they won't remember this, but we used to do things called moonies. Do you remember where if you were in the back of a bus or a car on the motorway, you used to flash everyone with a moonie in the back of the window?
I don't remember doing that myself, Patrick.
Hang on, Mark will do it now. Mark, will you stand up? Mark's flashing a neighbour's now. He's not wearing any shorts. He's literally got that. No, sit down, Mark, sit down. Look at that. Oh, he's got... And that's what people, look, there, Mark's doing a movie now. But that's what it, thank you, Mark, look at that. I can't believe everyone was shutting off the computers then. And this is what it's like. It was a bit of harmless fun, right? But it's gone mental now, these young kids. And the reason she was doing this, she nearly killed herself doing this Snapchat video. She said for the police or whoever found her, they said that she was doing it for her followers. And I thought, who are these people bored to death who are watching someone on the M25? Doing a video. I mean, I've been on the M25 loads of times and it's the worst, most boring thing ever in your life. And this is the problem now, you know, people will just watch anything when they, you know, put videos of themselves and in a car, you know, driving it. And I think that's the danger. It's pushing people now to try and, you know, make it a bit more exciting. So I think she probably deliberately just fell out of the car just to try and get a few more views on it.
And finally for you, Patrick, there's this story about, people giving chips to dogs. I know you've got a dog. Have you ever given your dog any pizza or chips?
No, our dog's got the number for Domino's. He just rings up if he needs. He's got like an account with Deliveroo, so he goes straight to them. There's no need to bother us. I mean, this is the problem. Now, I do empathise with this, and I obviously get told of my partner. She's very strict with the dog, with our little dog, and he is good, but I wouldn't give him any of these stuff that, you know, everyone, it said in this article, people are doing. Look, this is what my dog does. He'll come and sit here if I'm eating, and this is the problem with pets. If anyone's got a pet, they know what they're like. They're very clever. They're very conniving. Every time we're sitting, if we're having something to eat, the dog will come over and he'll sit, little Pablo, and he'll stare at me and he starts growling. And it means that he wants food. And my partner says to me, she said, just ignore him. Don't look at him. So I look to the other side of the room and I'm trying to eat. And then do you know what he does? He just walks to the other side of the room and then just starts growling at me there. I don't know what to do. So I have to literally just keep trying to move around. And eventually, the only way I can eat food is if I go and hide outside the house. I've got to go and hide somewhere just to try and have some food. And I think this is the problem, that if you haven't got a pet, it's very difficult because they are like part of your family. They're very, they constantly want stuff. But you have got to draw a line. I mean, some of these pet owners, I think it was ridiculous. It said something here like 27% of pet owners were giving their dogs and cats ice cream. I mean, this is worrying because, what are they giving their kids? Like cans of Whiskers and Pedigree Trum. I mean, you're meant to be you don't be giving ice cream to your cats and your dogs like this. And then this was hilarious. It said 1 in 20 have been giving them birthday cake. Why are you giving a dog birthday cake? It's their birthday every day. They don't do anything. They get up, they come and look for food, they eat all of it, they go and sleep on the sofa all day. Then they come back, they look at your food, what you're trying to eat, and then they go and sleep all day. And then they wait till you're asleep in bed at night, and then they wake you up so they can go and have a wee, and then eat some more food. I mean, they don't celebrate giving them birthday cake every day. I mean, this is the problem.
I think they get such a good life. It's ridiculous, isn't it? We treat dogs better than people sometimes.
Yeah. Well, do you know what we should do, Crispin? You know what we should do? We should take, and it's probably going to sound a bit harsh, but I think we should take all these dogs that are overweight, eating loads of chips every day and pizzas, and stick them in the police force. Right? Get them in the police.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Well, I like your glass as well. That's a very good little glass you got there. Yeah. So look, we're going to move on now to speak to Rob, who's good to see you, Patrick. I don't know where Don went. I know Susie's on a train to Cornwall, so people know.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. And Rob, are you there, Rob?
I am, yeah.
Rob, you are now in the charts, in the iTunes charts at number 99, is it? You're quite high up. You're in the charts, but we're not in the top 40 yet. So
not yet.
We need to push this out a bit more. But we did get a good support from John Mortar on Friday. He put out a good link that we can all share. How hopeful are you? Are you going to put all your life savings on getting in the charts?
That wouldn't really go very far. This is something I would never really have expected to happen. It's just a magic ride, man.
We're going to play your song again, the video, to refresh people's memories of it, and urge people to download on iTunes or on Amazon, and also Spotify. You can play it, but you've got to keep it on loop. You've got to permanently play it, because you have to play it sort of like 100 times to make the same as one download or something. So look, Rob, we're going to get this in the charts. We're going to get this in the charts. It's going to be. The last time I remember, I came over to yours.
Yeah.
This time we're going to be listening. We're going to be saying, and just imagine it, coming in at number 10 on the charts is
Skinner's Lad.
Robb Johnson with Tony Skinner's Lad. And then they have to play this song that's about socialism. I mean, this has been fantastic.
That's
so
superb.
And I'm going to unmute everyone while I play the song, and you can all sing along with it and dance if you like at the end of the show. We're going to do it properly. We're going to end the show with the song. So here we go.
Cause we cannot accept the nostrum that we've got to wait and go to sleep for 4 or 5 years until there's a parliamentary election, and then the sun will shine.
You get
the bus at 6 a.m. for Parkhouse from Claycross. You get the bus 'cause you're your father's son. You're sitting on a park bench watching rhododendrons bloom, singing Gracie Fields 'cause you're your mother's son. And they wonder, what's he after? Making trouble. What's this game? This one can't be bought. This one can't be had. Keep your eye on this one. He's Tony Skinner's lad.
I love this.
Tony Skinner's lad.
Yeah.
You get the Claycross Council chair, put that chain away. You're not standing up for me, sit down. Onto the Palace of Varieties, it's just your place of work, and your job standing up for those done down. And they wonder, what's he after? Making trouble. What's his game? This one can't be bought. This one can't be had. Keep your eye on this one. He's Tony Skinner's lad. Tony Skinner's lad. Get the bus at 6 a.m. Parkhouse, Claycross, Bolsover, Westminster. Here we come to win for working people what they're owed for what they've lost. You do the work 'cause you're your father's son. And they wonder, what's he after? Making trouble. What's this game? This one can't be bought. This one can't be had. Keep your eye on this one. He's Tony Skinner's lad.
Most of the major league forwards that have been made by the working class haven't been made down in the House of Parliament. They've been made on the streets and the picket line.
And they wonder, what's he after? Making trouble. What's this game? This one can't be bought, and this one can't be had. Keep your eye on this one. He's Tony Skinner's lad. Tony Skinner's lad. Dennis Skinner.
The nonsense that the Tories talk about turning the clock back. It's gone forward. It'll move on. The advance of socialism can't be stopped. It's never been stopped by prison walls. It's never been stopped by Labour cabinets. Never mind about Tories. The march will go on.
This might be it.
Over